Welcome to the Loud Quiet. Ooh, empty nester. Okay. What does that mean?
Yeah, I think that actually probably is the theme of the empty nest. What are we doing? Let's do this. Let's do this thing. I don't know if I'm recording. Yeah. Okay.
Great. Sans children. Just us. We need a tissue box up here. Follow along on our journey, and maybe, we can learn from others.
Yeah. I don't have a clue how to be empty nester.
This is the Loud Quiet, Living the Empty Nest. Hello, welcome back to the Loud Quiet, episode 24.
Yes.
Right?
You would think one of these weeks we wouldn't be hesitant about that.
I don't know.
21.
I know. I type it when I type it for the
we'll get
push
there.
out and everything, but probably not.
Back to the first episode. We're not professionals.
So, yes, welcome back. Hope everyone is having a good week. And we had a little bit of a different week this week in that this was really, Rick went to Austin, which he does every month, but this time he went for business and to see family. But it was kind of the first time in a while, and since we've been empty nesters, that you have been gone for multiple nights. It's, you've done day trips and we've done trips together, but this was kind of the first time that I was solo for a few days.
And we always talk about, and I would imagine every married couple says this, whether they've been married 1 year, 1 decade, one half, millennia, whatever. It's kind of nice to have the house to yourself. Mm-hmm. This, though, was the first time you had the house to yourself, to yourself, to yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And this, I guess the cat who chews cords was around.
Yeah, I know. Yes, if you see us glancing, because we did get our new cord, but he is sitting in the corner just eyeing the cord.
Staring at the cord. I've got eyes on him. You're safe.
Because it's anytime it moves, he's like, oh, yeah. So... you have always traveled in, the jobs that you've had.
My first job was as a consultant, coming out of school for Anderson Consulting, when that was in the era where you traveled Monday to Friday. Yeah. And sometimes, we remember those days where I would leave on Sunday.
Mm-hmm. And then, when the kids were younger, you were doing some travel to Asia, and those were, 10-day trips, longer trips. And then even in high school days, you were, in Boston or in, for days at a time. But yes, it was
Dayton, Ohio.
It was not all can be good places.
Oh wait, no,
travel.
It wasn't Dayton. It was Defiance, Ohio. Dayton would have been a treat.
Yeah. But yeah, so it was interesting because even Tegan's, when it was just me and Tegan, Tanner was already off at school. If you were traveling, she was still here in the afternoon and evenings sometimes. But yeah, it was a different experience.
Did you find yourself talking to the cat more?
He wasn't around that much. Really. You know how he is during the day. I would come and find him when I would get home from work. I'd come and find him upstairs in he chose the media room this week. He migrates to different places, but this week it was the media room. So I would come and say hi to him, but then he's not real big because even when you are here, I don't see him sometimes until you get home when he hears two voices in the house talking. And
that's probably important to, not that I don't know how many people care about our cat, but that is so important about him. It's wherever two or more are gathered. He's got that verse down. Yes. One voice he doesn't care about, but if there's two, he's got some sort of kitty FOMO or something. Hey, what's going on?
Yeah. So even at night, I would tell, okay, come on, you can get in the bed because he's not here. Yeah. Because you don't like him to be in the bed, and you don't even know when he gets in the bed now because he's always on my side. He knows that he can't. He's very sneaky.
He never goes to my side.
But he would not get up into the bed until the lights were out, because that's his cue okay, we're going to sleep.
That I'm asleep, and he knows that I won't bust him is what it is.
So, but yeah, it was pretty... nor, I mean, I can continue to talk about, I was glad that I had things in my schedule in the evenings. I had life group on Tuesday night. I went to that. I went out with my cheer mom girlfriends Wednesday night. So I was very thankful that I had some things planned because we both like, everyone likes alone time. Everyone likes a break from not having to cook, not having to.
Yes, like the activities. It's also just there's no mental energy that has to be expended around. Okay, I want to do X. What does the person that I'm living with want to do, and does that match up?
No.
It's just you almost get to go back to sort of your animal, not like weird impulses, but just I want to go turn this on, then I will watch this show. I want to go read book. I want to go play game. I want to eat snack. Whatever that is, you get that little taste of full unbridled independence that feels good for a little bit of time, and just you get to just do what you want to do. And so I imagine you got to do what you wanted to do.
It was nice, and like I said, I like the 2 nights is fine. When it starts getting longer, then it starts getting, because I do enjoy spending time with you. We do enjoy talking, and when there's no one else in the house.
That's why I asked if you started talking to the cat. It probably didn't help too that you and I are so outside oriented that this was some of the crappiest weather that we have in Texas. Not ice storm crappy, but just rainy, cold.
Yeah.
You don't want to go outside, so you didn't even have access to just go wander.
Yeah. But we, I survived. It was good.
You survived.
I know.
You
I mean,
thrived.
it's not.
You did say though.
But
You
I
started
did.
to talk about it. Was that a conscious choice to plan activities during that time?
Our group, we get together once a month. Life group, no, that's always has been on Tuesday nights, but our cheer mom group, we always get together once a month, and we had already started our text chain of, okay, what's the January week? And I looked. And so I said, oh, what about the week of this to this? Because I knew you were going to be gone. And so I knew that would give me something to look forward to and to do that evening. And it's always,
So it was
always a good time.
It was definitely a conscious choice. And I would think that I don't know when the next time will be that I have the house to myself. There is something about that though. Okay, I got a free weekend. Let's connect with that person or group, or yours is a regular one. Mine tends to be a little more ad hoc. It just, hey, let's go do this because we have the opportunity to do this. I don't know what do this. I was going to say things like golf or other things that you have no interest in, but I don't even have interest in golf. But picking something that you have that freedom to just choose the independent moment.
Well, yeah. You need to find people that like to camp because I don't enjoy doing. So
that is probably, if you were gone for a series of days and there was not a work responsibility that I had,
and
I'd probably go wander.
It is interesting because, like you said, when are you going to have the house to yourself? I have never traveled except when we were young, married, when I was a flight attendant. But it seems like my age group, or maybe it's just we don't do the girls' trips. I've been on a few, but
boy, I can't even remember the ones you've been on. That isn't a thing for y'all.
I've been on a few, and
why do you think that is? Because it's such a cliche.
And there's people that do it, and I don't know if I just missed out on starting those things because the activities that our kids were involved in always fell on the weekends, and I didn't want to miss. And some, I couldn't. There's no way that I could not be involved in one of her cheer competitions. Yeah. So,
as involved as I am with my daughter's life, there's no way I could do the hair that you did.
I think it's kind of the same vein of the bachelorette, bachelor parties that now have turned into trips.
Yeah.
So I don't know if it's that. I don't know if I tend to be and we talked about this last week, I tend to be the planner
Yeah.
in a lot of my groups. Not all, but in a lot of my groups, I am the planner. So if I probably suggested something, then yeah, something would probably come together. But
I had another thought. Now it's risky for me to say, hey, here's a reason why your groups don't do it. Well, it could be you and I do so much travel that maybe there's not that same sort of, like, imagine a couple that didn't travel a lot, and if the one of the spouses wanted to, well, then that could manifest itself into a guy's trip or a girl's trip. A lot of our weekends we're already traveling.
yeah,
So
maybe.
my alone time
So-
tends to come a lot of times traveling, like in this case, going down to Austin, which was a really great trip. I say it was a really great trip, and it also was a not really great trip at times. This was a very up and down from a family perspective, such a great trip. I've learned a few things about the work part of it, that mixing a work trip and a family trip is not easy. It was hard. It was hard to merge all those things together. And yes, that means that I got to have the flights tax deductible and all that kind of stuff because it was legitimately a work trip. Much like a lot of people with their careers at any stage, trying to balance those two worlds gets really tricky. When I'm trying to, okay, I'm at this conference and I know the hotel is 10 minutes away from my mom's memory care. I can get out of this event and go to see her, right? Those kind of things. So the logistic complexity of it was difficult. The delight of spending 3 days in Austin, 2 nights, was really nice. I was able to, first of all, I got to see my mom 3 days in a row. And the first two were, kind of sleepy. That sort of. The second day, she snored the whole time, and we had a good enjoyment about that. The third day, she was wide awake, even to the point of when I walked up to her, I got the facial smile. Like, her eyes brightened. I saw a bit of a grin. And we've talked about that. I don't know if that means that she recognizes, oh my gosh, this is my son, Rick Denton, or is it, oh, here's someone in my face, right? It's just and it doesn't matter. It brought her a moment of at least apparent delight, and that was fun. And she was awake the whole visit. And there's just something nice about the day trips are so great. We are so lucky to be able to be a 30-minute flight away. They feel rushed. This had moments of, while it was a jam-packed schedule, there still were some moments where it was just a little quieter, a little pause. I even mentioned to you that there was a moment that I was in the Bramblewood home, the home that I grew up in, by myself. And it was just that kind of moment of, oh yeah, this was my house that I grew up in. I felt, and I don't, the family is so welcoming. So I want to be careful with this sentence. The family is so welcoming, but sometimes because you don't live there, you feel like a visitor in the home you grew up in. I didn't feel like a visitor for that moment, and that was nice. And so getting the chance to take that trip, which it'd be a lot for you to come down there during the week. So this was sort of my chance to do that independent thing and be down there. And it was great. I got to connect with people who I haven't seen in at least 2 decades. And in some cases, well, it wouldn't be 3 decades, but definitely 2 decades it's been since I've seen them. And one of the guys and I met up for happy hour on the last night that I was there, and I was trying to get it in before the flight out, and timing worked out perfectly. And I even said it to him, we haven't talked in over 2 decades. We picked up as if we were sitting, as if time had not happened, as if one of us had been in a coma for 2 decades kind of thing. You immediately pick up and had no memory. And there's something.
And both, let me just interject, both of y'all's personalities are like that too. So that helps.
Oh yeah. And I'm sure he'd be fine with this. Yeah, I'm talking about Scott Buchholz, and Scott said you might be listening. So Scott, shout out to you. It really was a great visit to see you again. There's something about those high school memories that are just so cemented, and this really doesn't have much to do with empty nest, other than I think it's just as we achieve this stage of life, it can be nice to just connect to those positive things of the past, even if they weren't necessarily couple related. But it just helps us as the individual really just live a deeper, fuller life. I know that sounds way too deep for what I mean here. You know what? Let me just call it out for what it was. It was a really fun time to have some drinks at the Driscoll with a good old buddy who still has a Skinatique and is everything that we remember. And I know you know Scott as well. So at risk of rambling too much, that Austin trip wove so many things together, and it was so great to do. And we're lucky to be able to have that chance to do that with the flexibility as an empty nester that we can.
Yeah, and I think it does. It's fun to talk about those times because those are the times that our kids are in right now. So we see it with their friends and all the things that they're doing. So when you get to talk to someone that you knew through high school, college, even, I mean, I knew Scott because we all lived in Dallas when we were single. And so, yeah, we can see it now through their lens of you're making the friends now that you're going to be connected with for.
I hadn't thought about that. That's you've just you broke my synapses there. That was a we'll just hit pause right here. That does make a lot of sense because we enjoy watching our kids build those relationships. I hadn't thought about that. It's kind of that reminder that of those times when things didn't ache as much.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think I could be skiing behind a boat anytime
we
soon.
talked about that. I forget exactly. Scott, he said he doesn't ski as much. And I wonder it's been a few years. And I asked him, do you get to show off he's got a daughter. And he said, not as much, but it is kind of, because she's seen it. But I remember when we went and were skiing there in Arkansas and the kids didn't know. Yeah. I was like, watch your old dad here. He actually knows what he's doing, and it feels good.
It might not have felt so good the next day, but it felt good at the time.
Well, that's what bourbon and Advil are for. That's not an exaggeration.
Yeah.
So that Austin was fun.
Yeah, and again, it's nice to know that we can be independent, and and luckily, knock on some wood somewhere. Nothing went awry. Sometimes when you're gone, it seems like things go awry in the house or something. And so I didn't have any of those issues. Yeah, but then, when you got back and on late Thursday night and you took to heart what we talked about last week.
I did, and we talked about it last week. Even I had said that there's some theater stuff that we talked about. And so after the episode, I was like, here's what I was thinking about. And so, we went out to the local theater. And so.
Not local.
Well, do you mean the difference between Frisco and
Yes,
Dallas? Okay, I mean,
Yeah.
here's what I mean by local theater, though, to separate it out. This was not Broadway touring through. This was a local troupe in a small theater.
Small.
So this was Theater 3 is the name of the company, the name of the theater. We actually were even for those that happen to be in the Dallas area and know this, we were in the smaller theater called Theater 2, which is the basement theater. And this was a tiny theater, but so the show was "Love You, You're Perfect, Now Change." That's what's the ticket that's on here.
Yes, because I put the ticket because it didn't start till 8:00, and it was an over 2-hour show. Which it was
fine.
It was raining that day. I had a horrible sinus headache, and I was like, if we hadn't already bought the tickets, I think, and you were tired from your trip, but no.
Now looking back though.
Oh, it was. Yeah.
Now that you know that, even with your sinus headache, even with the rain, would you have rather canceled or done what we did?
No, I liked what well, okay. That's kind of a. Of course, I liked what we did. I'm not going to say, no, I would have rather that we stayed home.
Well, no, sometimes there's times that I think, though, even with the rain, I was dreading the rain. And the traffic. It took us an hour and 5 minutes or 10 to get to the restaurant that we went to before the show.
Which that was fun, being down kind of in our old stomping grounds and found a good tapas restaurant.
Barcelona's the name of it. If you're here, it's down on Knox Henderson area. Spectacular and surprisingly inexpensive.
Yeah, service was great. It was a little loud. So service was great, but it was just a little loud. The music was good, but it was a little loud, and I just don't like having to yell across
we were at a small
the table.
table.
It was a tiny table.
And still had to yell across each other. And it was interesting, from 5 to 6, which is when the happy hour was, It wasn't. And I mean, I think it's 6 o'clock. Bam!
fun.
It turned to party scene. And I know this just sounds so old, and it does. And I really wonder, do 20-somethings ears just absorb that differently, and they actually can hear their friends better, or they're just content to put up with it? Because yeah, there were times I'm like, "What's that, Clancy?"
Yeah. I don't know. I think all of them are going to go have hearing problems way before us because they wear their AirPods in their ears every single moment of the day.
Yeah.
But I don't know. But yeah, that was a good experience. And then yes, we went over to the theater, and I mean, it was like we are on the stage. It
There were 2 rows.
Yeah.
Three. Sorry, the third row just
Right.
wasn't used behind us.
Yes, but I mean, literally, the first row was lining. There were 4 actors, and at some points they were, in your face, but it was good. They were excellent. It's a musical that spans through different stages of couple life.
Beginning from that, like the first song was First Date, and then I actually thought that was kind of quirky or fun how they did the first date, but then let's skip all and they walked through all those, and so, and yeah, even into marriage and kids, and for the relationships that didn't make it, and then it was kind of a heartwarming one. Was that the last one or next to last? A heartwarming one with the old couple there
Meeting at a
at a
funeral.
funeral, yeah. But yeah, we'll put this for those on the video. This is how small this place was. And that was the intimacy of the theater and the uniqueness of the theater. We haven't done this ever. No, I don't know. I can't remember, but it's been like a tiny show like this.
Oh, it's small. Yeah.
And it was fun to do something.
We did in Houston. We did a couple of that.
We did.
Yeah.
That's
and,
right.
I mean, we've watched you do improv.
Well, okay. It's better when I'm in the audience.
But yeah, it was very good, and it was hilarious because the couple sitting next to us, it was there, and they had brought their married kids in front of us, and she was telling me they've been 14 times. The show runs during Valentine's Day, and but one of the husbands in front of me, when I sat down, I heard him go, "Why don't you like me?" And it's a Friends reference. And so I'm behind him and I go, "Chapter 1." And he turned around. He's like, "You know what I'm talking about?" Because it felt like you were
That's
about
right.
to be yelled at or something because you're so close. But it was funny.
This is about the time that you think there'd be an intermission. Well, life doesn't give you intermission. So yeah, if you know that episode of Friends, now thankfully there was no anger in this show.
No.
And we talked about this a little bit. Think about this. This is this smaller theater troupe in a town that it has its fine arts components, but I don't know that people would say, yes, Dallas is a fine arts mecca, right? And the talent level that was there. And it just amazes you to think how much talent is out there willing to perform on a stage in front of 20, 25 people on a rainy Friday night. It was impressive.
And the time, because these people have to have other jobs.
Oh,
they
yeah.
can't support themselves doing local theater, but the time commitment, I'm sure, is crazy.
Yeah, we saw the final production, right? But
So,
that's not the
yeah.
same as the rehearsal. To your point, absolutely.
Yeah, it was a good, fun Friday night.
I'd like to, and I'd like to add that as a category of something that we do on a recurring basis. That does not mean weekly. That does not mean monthly. Now that we've done that, it's one of those that it's not thrown in your face,
Yeah.
and so you have to seek it out. And I think that's going to be true of a lot of empty nest stuff. As we try to figure out, how do we kind of date. Well, we can't just rely on what we've known being thrown in our face, but rather what are the new experiences that we can try? And this was one of them.
Well, again, we get to create our schedule. Our schedule is not created for us like it has been for the past how many ever years.
Because there's no way we would have chosen an 8 p.m. show in many, many decades before.
No. Well, and that's what I said. We probably would have been at.
Well, it's Friday night. We know exactly where we would have been.
Not in January, but yes.
True.
So, but yeah, that was fun. Fun Friday night. And then we you know, we've talked about obviously, and in this episode too, we go to Austin once a month to visit your mom and, see family. And we've started doing that after she got diagnosed. And yeah, I think it was even after last week's episode, I said to you, we haven't seen my parents
Yeah.
because we used to see them almost every weekend with kid events because they are
They were at
super supportive. They would come to everything. And so I said, I haven't seen my parents. So I said, let's meet them. I'll see if they're available Saturday for lunch. And so we met them in Plano yesterday for lunch. It was good. Yeah,
Good.
it was good conversation. I talked to my mom on the phone and we text and that kind of thing, but I hadn't seen them in person since before the kids went back.
It's almost, I don't want to use the word lazy. It's just it's not, there's nothing that forces the hand to do that, right? So I have declared I'm going, and when you come, are going to see my mom once a month, and there's logistics that have to be managed. There's a plan that has to be. When family is in town, it almost becomes too easy. And so that ease has devolved into, well, then we just don't do. And I was really glad that you did say, hey, we should do something. Because I like your parents too. This is not the stereotypical in-law situation. They're good people.
And I look at some families, and especially, I don't know how many families down south, but up north, I just feel like the families, they get together for Sunday dinner. They get together for, there's a meal once a week. If you live close enough that you're getting together with your family. And, it's too bad that we didn't start anything like that, because when we were all living here, and most of us are still all living in the same area. I hope that if we're close to where our kids are, maybe we can start that tradition.
That would take, I think, more episode to figure out why. I think if some of it's kids' schedules, some of it is fatigue of, wait, this is the one day that's quiet. But you're right.
Well, yeah. Most of the families that and maybe I'm being fooled by movies and shows, but there are families that I know that do, and most of the time it's on Sunday. Well, we like our Sundays, especially when the kids were in school. That was the reset day. That was, we're not doing anything. And so,
some of it too is
it
cultural.
has to be planned.
I think you're right about the movies, right? You look at Hispanic families, and that is, every time we were at White Rock Lake, you would see gatherings of clearly multi-generational. I feel that way about Black American families. I don't know if there's something about Southern white that we just lost that, or Texan white, or urban, like living in the shiny city.
I think it has to do with where we probably live, because there are Southern families that do, but I think it has to do with how busy we have chosen to make our lives. It's
I'm glad you used that word, because too many people are like, oh, my life is so busy, I don't have time. Everybody has the same amount of time. It's what you choose to do with it, and there were choices that we made.
Yeah, but I would, maybe you just pick a different night or something. Anyways, I don't know.
That's right.
I was just thinking about that when I was thinking about, I wish that would have been something that would have been more established in our families, because I don't think your family did that.
We would. It just wouldn't be overly extended. Growing up, because I've talked about my mom's fried chicken meal, and after church, there always was a big meal after church that we would have, and I think Nana sometimes would participate in that.
But that was just your
very, very
family.
local, and we hadn't moved to that stage of Grandma might come over, but we didn't have a lot of, kind of, just because of death or those sorts of things, we didn't have as many branches in the family. And just some geography took care of it that way. You're right. We didn't necessarily do it to the same degree.
And I didn't necessarily mean to bring us down that path, but it was just something I was thinking of, getting back to why I wanted to get together with my parents, because we hadn't seen them So it was good to catch up and see what's going on with them. And we had some serious conversations, not super serious, but
Well,
just,
no end of life discussions around preparing for that and the need because there's some extended friends and family that we are knowing that there's ways to perhaps have prepared or handle things in ways that would optimize it. And within our own families, we're pushing hard for everything to be
Yes.
taken care of so that when tragedies happen or when diseases happen or whatever, then the business is already taken care of and you can focus on the care and the love rather than the business and the transaction.
well, yeah. And like I told them, you know, what we've been through the past 4 years has, you know, we know more about wills, power of attorneys,
Trusts, estate planning,
yes, estate, than,
POA,
you know, I ever
HIPAA.
thought I would know at this age or maybe any age. But so, yeah, we just, you know, talked about some of that kind of stuff. And
It was interesting how it organically came up too. It was not planned.
And it's nice that I and you, being the son-in-law, have that relationship with my parents that, you know, because it's on your side of the family that we're dealing with everything right now, but that they're comfortable with you, you're comfortable with them, that we can talk about those kinds of things.
Hey, how are y'all's docs?
Yeah.
And to be clear on my side of it, we're dealing with it, but thank God for the preparation that my mom had done and my dad had done and that Jerry has done. And so it is, we are able to navigate this in a much simpler way. And even what we're having to do with Nana and make sure that those things are in place.
Yeah.
They're examples of what happens when you do it right and how that eases things when you do it right.
Well, and it shocks me when I find out people, not necessarily our age, but just a little bit younger than us who have kids, that they don't have a will. And I mean, as soon as Tanner was born, we made a will and then have updated it, of course, as we've gone along. But it does surprise me how many people don't think about that until it's time to think about it. And then it's too late.
Be thinking about it now if you haven't.
Yeah.
Well, you know something else, and there's no real natural segue here, but we've been thinking about rain a whole lot. And we have kids in a place that doesn't have the same amount. So text of the week, huh?
And it was funny at dinner with my chair moms the other night. One of the sons that's graduated has moved to Arizona, actually lives close to where Tanner is. And I asked her, how's it going? She said, if I get another beautiful sunset picture, she said, because what we're dealing with here. So yes, if you live in the Dallas, Fort Worth, or even anywhere in Texas, I think right now, the rain has just been horrible. I mean, I know we need the rain and we need to be thankful for the rain, but I don't live in Seattle.
Yeah.
Okay. I guess I needed to come in here and send her these lights but yes, Tanner texted, and
these past few days have been the most consecutive cloudy, rainy days I think I've ever had in Tempe. And I'm kind of rocking with it. Not the text we want to receive.
I just sent back and said, shut up. It's been horrible here. But
You're
they
about to
do.
get blocked.
They don't get the rain like we do. And so they get excited when it rains and they have everybody, I like a cloudy day occasionally, but when it's been 10 days or 14 days, it's been too much. So hopefully we will have some.
We have the sun today.
Yes, the sun
so
is nice out
we will
today.
be,
Yes.
as you said, please let us be able to go take a walk or something today. I'll bundle up. I don't care if it's cold. Just get out in that sunshine.
Yeah. Yeah, so
fun. Another one with you, kiddo. All over the place today, huh? This
we
really
covered
was
a vast array of topics.
Thanks for hanging with us, listeners and viewers. If you have made it to the end, we appreciate that. And as always, come on, let us know what you'd want to talk about. Let us know. We always want to hear your thoughts as well. Thank you for those that have shared your thoughts as well.
Yeah, and thank you for recommending our podcast to people. I've had a few people tell me, "Oh, I've told so and so about it, and
Yeah.
so we do appreciate the word of mouth. And again, we enjoy doing this. We hope y'all enjoy listening to it. And yes, if you have a question or if you need any of the references to restaurants or
That's right.
or theaters that we've been to or movies.
We're still figuring out the relationship, but by golly, we can tell you about food and entertainment. We got you set there. in many cities.
Yeah.
In many cities.
Yes, that is true.
Oh,
Yeah,
goodness, kiddo.
so-
Well, this has been fun.
Yep.
Another episode of The Loud Quiet, Living
Living
the Empty Nest.